So yeah, fucking, I was watching this thing on the ABC a while back, fucking, and honestly, it's not even the first time I watched it, but it's about Harold Holt, right? And it's not a conspiracy theory video or anything like that. Like, this is the ABC that buddy did this, right? Pretty hard to find now, coincidentally, but like the whole framing of it was some of the things that Harold Holt was actually trying to do, quietly within, within the private little walls of Parliament there. Um, and yeah, like, always scratched my head at it actually, because so basically, like, right, Holt was like, one of those few, like, rare few folks on the liberal side of politics that was actually half decent, right? Like, it was the one that, first started getting the ball rolling to get rid of fucking white Australia policy and shit like that. And fucking, yeah, like, now, okay, he was publicly a supporter of the Vietnam War, but here's where it gets interesting, because something that he actually privately was actually starting to consider a good couple of weeks before he, went for a swim and didn't come back, was pulling the troops out of Vietnam because of all the protests and things like that going on. He's like, well, our own people don't want it. We should pull our blokes out. William McMahon, yeah, he's second within the party there, and fucking pretty sure it's treasurer or something like that. But anyway, he kicked up a stink. He's like, you don't want to pull the troops out of Vietnam. It's a very, very bad idea. Do not pull the troops out of Vietnam. And fucking him and fucking McEwen, the deputy prime minister at the time, and, well, the national or the country party leader, were both, bouncing this idea back and forward behind closed doors. Now, the other part that's fucking weird about it all is when a president of the United States has a visit to any nation, including Australia, right? It's a months long fucking, it takes a good few months for it to be prepared and fucking everything. It's not something that just happens like that, right? And there was no planned visit for him, in that couple of weeks before, Holt died. There's nothing like that. There was no talk about or anything like that. But yeah, the moment he goes for a swim with a bloke that he's only known for like a couple of weeks and whatnot, like a few months or what, it was a very short amount of time that he'd actually known this bloke. It wasn't like, one of his lifelong fucking mates. All of a sudden, he goes into the water with this bloke, and that bloke's the only one that comes out. Like, so it's pretty obvious who, had something to do with that, right? Like, whether or not there was other people involved that day, yeah, but no, like, old mate had something to do with it. And yeah, but at the end of the day, McMahon wanted to pull the troops out of Nam, and America, McMahon didn't want him to, pull the troops out of Nam, and America definitely didn't want Australia to pull their troops out of Vietnam. They wanted their continued support. And yeah, they'd already done a few things that the Australian people were a bit, were a bit controversial to the Australian people, like getting rid of the white Australia policy and stuff like that. But then all of a sudden, they're going to make the big balls move of, bowing to the protests, if you will. Now, before he can even make that public announcement, he goes for a swim and he doesn't come back. Now, that day that it was happening, there were several phone calls between William McMahon and the Governor General at the time. The contents of these calls are, completely unknown, but, they were happening, and the reason we know that was happening is because one of McMahon's secretaries at the time actually went and said as such. And, like, even back in the day, like, when it happened, there was stirrings and rumours that the Americans had something to do with this. And if you know much about the Whitlam dismissal, then you'd know that, the Americans have a habit of using the British, who, by this point in history, they've got well under their thumb, using the British and the Governor-General here in Australia, by extension, as a way to manipulate our politics. All of a sudden, goes for a swim, doesn't come back. Now, here's where it gets fucking really weird. The deputy prime minister at the time steps up to the acting sort of prime minister role, and that was John McGowan. Now, McGowan, he just inexplicably fucking hated McMahon, right? He did not want McMahon being the prime minister, to the point where he even threatened to not go into coalition if the Liberal Party elected McMahon as their party leader. Like, that's how adamant he was. Like, he was like, look, I'm going to serve as the prime minister until the Liberal Party picks their leader, and we'll go with that. But I will not have my party go into coalition with his party if he's the one that's the leader. And it's like, wow, that's some pretty fucking strong feelings he had. And the other part where it's fucking weird is the President of the United States at the time fucking visited really fucking quickly. Like, as in like a couple of weeks after Holt's death, he's there, and the whole purpose of the visit was to pay his respects. That was the primary reason for his visit to Australia, was to pay his respects. And it's like, nah, visits from the US president, even back then, they didn't happen that quick. Like especially back then, like, it took months of planning for that to happen. So for him to be here so quickly, and to have all the full-fledged Secret Service sort of stuff in place for his visit, that visit would have had to have been planned well beforehand. And again, like, it was only a couple of weeks before his death where, like, McMahon and Holt were actually starting to butt heads, because he was starting to get more and more adamant again about pulling the troops out of Vietnam. So yeah, fucking a bit of a weird one there for you, but I think we make the joke about the Chinese sort of, taking him, or fucking in a sub off to, wherever for fucking, or fucking, the Japanese or the fucking North Koreans or whatever weird, wacky conspiracy theory, like the Loch Ness Monster or some shit. I think we make these jokes a little bit too hastily, because there's something weird that does happen in our politics when it comes to America. We've seen it with Gough Whitlam. That's pretty much undeniable. Like, that's a part of our history now, that America helped get rid of Gough Whitlam. Like, that's not even a conspiracy theory at this point. Like, it's pretty well accepted. And the other one, Kevin Rudd, with buddy, what's his face? Fucking dude looks like he's ET or some shit. It was, Gillard's friend, and like really, really chummy with America. And again, like, was the one that shored up the numbers for fucking Julia Gillard at the time. Buddy, that giraffe bloke has got a really fucking good video on that one. But yeah, like, it really just kind of makes you do this. Like, huh? It's like, what the fuck's going on? Like, I think we need to be a little bit more cautious about America and their involvement in our politics. Especially considering their media, like, magnate that we still pretend is Aussie, but let's face it, like, Rupert Murdoch is American. He hated Australia that much that he went and became a US citizen and threw away his Aussie one. Like, when the Americans have got such a foothold in our media and, like, ownership over our information exchange, like, even YouTube or like Facebook, and all of our main channels as well, like fucking, like Channel 7, Channel 9, like, their advertisement money comes primarily from these American companies that are throwing the money to advertise shit. There's a few Aussie ones that will, but primarily big American companies trying to sell you their latest and greatest. And then there's Channel 10 that is just outright owned by America. The only outlier to that is the ABC, that back in the day used to actually do fucking risque shit like this, right? And another one is their video on Ndrangheta, the honoured society, the Sicilian sort of mafia in Australia. They turned around and actually, like, showed some pictures of, like, some of these big mob bosses attending, like, Liberal Party fundraisers and shit, like, and had the pics to prove it. Like, that one you can still find on YouTube, actually, that documentary. It's a really good one. Go watch it. I'm not fucking gonna bother putting it in the description or any bullshit like that. Heck, I don't even know why people even watch this fucking. But anyway, yeah, like America's doing something fucking really, really weird here, and that one outlier that we used to have, the ABC, even they have found themselves to be corrupted by outside influences. We've seen recently, like they're not corrupted by American influences, so obviously, but they're definitely corrupted by criminal influences. With their adamant support for, and I say support because it's fucking support. Their adamant support for the Al Madine crime family, like, yeah, I mean, like, they basically condoned the fire bombings of that Buddy Geordie's bloke to the point where American YouTubers are talking about that bloke, like that Buddy Moist Critical. Literally, like, he's done a couple of videos based on the whole firebombing thing, and it's like, huh? Like, even Americans with all the weird, wacky fucking shit going on there are sitting there, like, just normal Americans in the YouTuber days, scratching their fucking heads at what's going on here. So, yeah, like, I think we need to really, really start paying more attention to American and criminal involvement in our fucking politics, because shit's getting fucking weird, like, yeah, yes. Anyway, not even going to bother rambling about how the bikies run the, political climate up here in Queensland. That's a story for another time.